Hello.
Hello.
Where is that? Kerry, you can do translator.
Have we lost the translator?
No,
she's here.
maybe just would like to invite you to try today.
Maybe not today, but thank you for the offer.
Kidding mesa.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, yes. Good idea.
Yeah, that then also such a one the chair, not change simple dark or so there. Don't be think you can say, she will come to a shillis or
That's all. We are, if you recall, at the point where we are talking about the vessel, the proper recipient for the Bodhisattva vows.
that then in the dark tomorrow, Danganzo, Aladambo Chanjuk Sim Sage, Chanjuk Sim Sedum, Kandajik Chanjuk Sim Sigi or the Sajara. In this, Chanjuk Sim gave a tablet the carre. I didn't dig it in Chanjuk Sim gave a think Casa de Candere. Why are the Chanjuk Sim me? Also, Chanjuk Sim me the carre. Why are that those caras? Nezima, oh, just sound taja. Then Chanjuk Sim said the Carsword, the quarter of your chest down. Toronto, you watch in here, that how she showed, right?
So we have already discussed several aspects about the topic of bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, which are all very necessary in order to becoming able to develop bodhicitta and to generate the true wish, yearning to develop it, and also then to start to get a taste of what it's like. So we have talked about what bodhicitta actually is, and then we looked into how to generate bodhicitta, and then we looked at what's the aim, the goal of bodhicitta, and then also what is the person like that is suitable for generating bodhicitta.
Understand. That and in the elegance of those sound done by you. That Chanjuk Sim said, what Chanjuk Sim says sound down in the then Marazoda, Chanjuk Sim said, Rachi with and those sound time of Tasha. Rachi Wichida, Yanachi, so circuit Namira, so circuit, Tachike, Haswata, Cindy, digging your end up to that. What Chimmy digging you at it down. Yana Tarbe Dava you had up so much down. What the dish sounds done and dear Melch.
And we have so seen that bodhicitta is not something that is okay to have as a focus one's own benefit, and also not that of a limited amount of people, like maybe just my friends or my family. It is also not meant to serve as a tool for just this life's pleasure, for just this life's joy, not also for just a future life and the pleasures of a future life, a good positive rebirth. And also it's not meant to serve merely for attaining mere liberation, mere nirvana.
Why are that in the total sound done by this? Same day, they catch Chunjun Chavares, Busudo Chavares. The day in the Gashambush sound down go, Chanjuk Sim Slide, that 심진 탐제겠다 대체 냠배 와다 덴데지 쿠르림베 다심 덴데지라 다 중국이야레스 다 심진 탐제겠다 배 가서와다 대체 냠베다 덴데지 쿠르라야 게드네 심 덴데지 중화를 제발라 타예베 심진라 미고보다 타쳐 와 타예베 심진 디도지 상당고바 타쳐 제가 타예베 심진디다 근데 동의 교단 시아발레 저외 저와 시오 미네베 양알레 다바스 근데지 고발라 고에베 체도 아래 근데지 고고도 있어 고고바 타제 선다체도 가지 로게네 다디 다세 요해 매바시 뭐라 라니라 데가 깨멀이바 빵베 드네베 깨멀이바 빵바다 다 연대 용수소베 창주고 고바 세제로 창주 세제 근데 마토나 요해 매바시 제가 심진기 가서다 타투게 된데 대화스는도 타투베다 쇼미네 양대 대화스를 다 근데지 두베게 돈다라 근데 토마르라니 와다 창주 고마 던던이베 셈 캐바르션 텐디지라드네 창주 셈 시잖아 라고야레스 봐
Because why is that not okay? Because that makes the mind very small, very narrow, limited. And what we need is a very vast mindset, a very open mind, a very large, wide space of mind. And that means, in other words, for the sake of all sentient beings. And growing a heart and a concern, a commitment for the sake of all beings. That's what we need to train at. So that means I will do this for the sake of all sentient beings. And that entails, when we say all sentient beings, that entails endless, the infinite numbers of sentient beings. These become the objects of our bodhicitta. And it's their suffering that we want to remove. It's their joy that we want to establish. So it's really this firm, very firm wish and intention. I have to liberate all beings from their suffering and the causes of suffering and establish them on the supreme state of final lasting peace, which is Buddhahood. That's what I really have, what I really want to bring about. This is what has to happen. And that's in the intention we are training in, to really get very firm in that mindset, to get very determined, to establish all beings on the supreme level of Buddhahood, which means the state where there are all faults, all confusions have been extinguished, and where all qualities have unfolded and fully blossomed. And in order then to bring that about, that also entails that we generate the wish to become fully awake so that we can bring this about for the sake of all sentient beings. So this is what bodhicitta entails.
미유 가르쳐서 서나 정축 차서 탑재기 미유도 정축 차서 정축 미유 쓰게 있는다 두차 쓰게 있는다 탑자 쓰게 있는다 다또 정축 되지 좋아 다 정축 쓰라는데 가르창추 쓰라 가르창바 가르추 바스 저니 레겨 장쓰라데 다 강창바레스나 깽게 차탄제 장바 다방 세바 경기 차탄제 장바 경기 차탄제 세바 경기 차탄제 다바 세지로 축 슬라인드 되네 로 추바 로 콘도 추바 야나 다 대탐제 용수 조바지 대탐제 용수 조바 뭔도 기게 된다지 야나 덴바니부디 지자도 배탄 러티나 여바나 신지 시바
Karida Wuzikba,
Tempa Tanje, Lape Nanzuse,
Lakpa Lang Selbuzik,
Lape Sigba. How was on?
Lasso,
What the Niji Jia, the Musum to Sigba. What the Nijunga Yana, Chuba, so don't have to do you.
turn Tamje Muntu Gurwasana,
Don't come just a lot, Tempa Niga don't want to do us and together. Turn the Don't want to give us a lot, turn the Cabanisha, when Niga want to give us a lot and together.
Alela,
Niga the Lapena Yobanashi Musum to Sigba and together.
Lasso,
Whether Mawasam was oldest Lapshina console, there's a lot of chat there.
Lasso. So therefore, what is the aim, the goal of bodhicitta? It is awakening, enlightenment. What is enlightenment? That's of course then the question that appears in Tibetan Jang Chup. So Jang is the first part of the word enlightenment, and that entails to the removal of all faults, the coming to an end of all faults, the closure of all faults, the removal of them, the erasing of them. And what is chup? So the second part of the syllable for awakening, chup means to literally to internalize. And what we are internalizing is the full understanding of the two truths, of the relative truth and the absolute, the manifestation of those two truths, of the realization, we could say, or internalizing, or whatever other word you can come up with, just as me, or seeing, also Geshe said, seeing the two truths, the ultimate and the relative, as clear as your own palm.
This one.
That's all.
Hard Chang choose. That Chang said, Chang did Semji Gimiyu Diris, Tapcha Diris, Druja Diris, Layunde. Tangano de la Ale Semji Druja Tadu Diris, Miyu Tadu Diris, Drukoya the Diris, Layunde, that the Kares, Chang Chups the Kares, Layunde. That the Namsan Sao Quay, the Kishim Shirja. Narazu Miyu Taba Chimbe Church, the Miyukra Tide. Narazu Dirich Guyata. Chen Yunda, Gangi Ritanche Chang, Da, Se, Slavonia, the Tsi, Pujusum Tamay. Chang Bada, Tabada, or Sebada, Taba set, Pujusum Tamay. Tatunda, Changba Sigin and Da, Tagba Sigin and Da, Seba Sigin and Da, Karsena Masana, the Nimbu Toge, Changba. Nimu Kombe Tok, Tower Cheba. Nimu Kombe Tok, Saber Cheba, Changs. Daz Jangre Yamare. When Nimu Kombe Tok, Changjuk sent the Yanda, Tao Kombe Tok. The Nijig Changba the Taba Seba Singula. This Seba the Taba Jungri together said to the Naranzo Loyke the Gassando, not the Nubashimbo Shoshandu. Not the Yuji Barchevala Tichi Chin, the Tibur Chigenge, Parche Chingichi Yamata. Parche Chingichi never not the cell rap, cell some nubity, Tamja Yonso Zobare. Yonso Chubare. Chanshup, Sirva. What there is some tango, that there is some tango to Sirva. What the little answer to Jan me you to do Diritas.
Therefore, the aim of bodhicitta is exactly this. What is to be attained is exactly this. And that's also the aim of the whole of the Mahayana path. So the aim is, once more, to extinguish all faults in the mind. Whether we say extinguish, whether we say remove, whether we say purify. And that happens through the power of the antidote. It does not happen on its own, just by itself. And what is that antidote? the antidote is bodhicitta for one, and the correct view on the other, the pure view, and the practice of both of these, the meditation, training, and so on in these two aspects. And when then through that all these faults come to an end, when they are extinguished, what happens is that the mind gets very powerful, because nothing stands in the way anymore of the full power of the mind being there. Once these veils, obstacles, however you want to call them, these faults have been removed, then the mind can fully blossom, and the natural power that is there can fully that's perfected. It is fully there. It is internalized. So this is what this second syllable entails, as we have seen, is internalizing, or waking up, or perfecting, or blossoming, or there are so many ways how we could call it. And we should consider in this way, this practice and the goal of the practice. So that's really our final aim.
아야 천주 제가 천주 그 세제 된대 지기더니 탑제 고방 타르토베 고방 된대진 되벨로 제래 다 된대베 고방 되바래 천주 된도 니가 그 천주 쌤 공쟁이 미디 된대 그 터도 그 고방 좀 되기야래 아 수시도 되기야래 쳐도 저거 수시도 코로나 지구 쳐도래 o Kurang se di chidorbe, o Kurang joshimi chidorbe, o Kurang tabata chidorbe. Yana Kurang nami chidorbe, yana Kurang lumbe chidorbe. Ka su chidorbe. Lade, dende mare, dende the sang kunu dende sang tamane gyachung dos. Semdi debana shiji miyu dende jin dugu yare, kunu dende jin mado mena, yongay chun mebe gejares. Da chide 다 수치도스라는 다 예배 심증이 쳐도 다 예배 심증스라는데 심증 찌게 말로 비셔도 된다. 다운 되는 게 동해다 동해 민들간다 다운 되는 심증 찌게 말로 비셔도 두스칼라인데 심증 찌게 말로 비셔도 가래 대다게 대와 터도도 좀 되잖아 대다게 동해 타도도 동해도 다 탐제 답에 마치 샌드 첸드게 쳐도라 와 드네지 쳐도 임바 인도 심자 타다가 다 되어주겠다 인도 된 거지 드네지 고나다 신든 줍스 다 신든 줍에 쳐도스 전주 돼야 돼 신든 줍에 쳐도다스 신든 줍에 다스 신든 말다스 타르토베 신든 줍에 쳐도다스 두상당도
네. The final attainment, the final goal that we hold on the Mahayana path and with the practice of bodhicitta is the attainment of Buddhahood. So anybody who cultivates bodhicitta, a bodhicitta meditator, wants to achieve that. That's what he or she aims for. But for the sake of who? Is it for themselves, or is it for this life? Or is it for the sake of the next life? Is it for the sake of liberation? Is it for the sake of one's family? Is it for the sake of one's country? That would be a way too small motivation. That would be too limited. So with that kind of motivation, it is actually not possible to achieve what one wants to achieve. It's not possible. And therefore, for whom do we want to achieve Buddhahood? For the sake of all infinite sentient beings. That means without leaving a single one aside. That means for all those beings who want to be happy and free from suffering, which is what everybody wants, what every being wants. And therefore, it's for the sake of establishing all sentient beings in lasting happiness, not just temporary happiness, and to relieve their suffering on a lasting level, forever, with all the sources and causes for suffering. So therefore, bodhicitta is this brave, it's this brave heart that is being talked about right now. So for the sake, for the benefit of all sentient beings, on an absolute sense. So for a lasting benefit, not just a temporary benefit.
Yes, one.
Also,
Aya da. Deda bida. Sem kabarshen. Dene soso jula kyawala. Chezang tomar miyuge chanju sede. Motobachi kuguyare. Naraz sangela gyavsu, chola gyavsu, kindula gyavsu chu sechane. Jambru yanda bachi gyula gyawar chevala. Gyabyu moshayaje tabshi chapore. Gyabyu moshayage tabshi majana. Jambru yanda bachi yuha yomare. Dendeji yundu da chanjuk sede. Chanjuk sede ngo yagucho machaba yena. Dene chanjuk tundu nyege semde ka tundu nyegore. Go motubu yomeba. Ka tundu nyegore. Sangela gyabsu shuuse, gyabsu sungse sange kawa yemeda, kaa yemeda, chikanga haku mena ko gyabsu shuuse jana. Jada ngandu diwa do ngandu losula karayasana. O dode zaashambo shibirida, o chude zaashambo rida, o ride zaashambo rida sede ngandu bebe losula shibiyore. Di dwa rido zola charitse, dode lechi di dekwa dhabje tu. Chude chi zaashambo chi tung, dwa jige chude tungna dekwa dagi yosol sang kwache. Tene manguduwa. What is the kind of Sanaba? Give you Mamashaba, Junzidirva.
it is essential that we are aware what the aim of this very particular and special mindset is. It is necessary because without knowing, it is very hard to really strive for that and to really exert ourselves in accomplishing this if we don't really know for what we are doing it, or what the aim is like, or what the aim is in the first place. It's the same with the practice of refuge. It's very hard to take authentic refuge when we are not really aware of who Buddha is, what the Dharma is like, and what the Sangha is like, what the qualities of them are. And that would be a little bit like in Tibet, for example. They have a lot of practices where the people venerate some elements in nature. Maybe they venerate a mountain or a stone or a river, and they think that they are very powerful and so on and so on. And then they take refuge in a way in these things. And this is because they don't really know actually about these objects.
Gerita Pevegeri Wala, Injigeritonata, Nanjade, Mangshu Shadigiore. Chushino Shadigiore. Chazada, Temravinato Shivjore. Then how to the Nigaram Chingi, Sumango Shivji Injitore. That the Negtone, that Kandu Chidu Tone, that's also Gavi Moshi Ajita. The name. Semke Selayinde, Chanju Sem Sang also 부디치다 쓰라고 되다 배고나 지금 미참만 되와 예dengen 소리 차대기요래 근데 임들 오다 전주스의 간대지래 전주스의 수시도 전전 얘기요 알베 모두 들었다 상록화의 개심무시도 뒤돌아 고아차에 탐시 가서 개심무시다
If we want to practice the Dharma, we need to go for refuge in the Dharma. And in order to go for refuge, we need to know what the Dharma is like, what the qualities of the Dharma are. And in order to know the qualities of the Dharma, we need to study the Dharma so that we can learn about the Dharma. And we are very fortunate in the West because we have so many Dharma books available these days. Probably, the language with most Dharma books available is a Western language like English. Yeah, English has an infinite amount of Dharma books that are available these days, and not only that, but also so many teachings by His Holiness the Dalai Lama are available in the form of books. And this is very helpful and an essential tool for us getting to know more and more about the objects of refuge, about bodhicitta, about enlightenment, and for what reason we want to achieve enlightenment, and so on and so on. So it's really very, very important that we rely on these tools, the tools of study and so on, and contemplation to deepen our understanding of these things.
나라즈 샘기 춘이 있어요. 야나 나라즈 정시 내리 있어요. 하고서 정시 내리 있어요. 샘기 내루 타르투바치. 샘기 내주 타르투바데 시에 탑시죠보다. 디시에 탑시죠는 디시발레 탑시 디토나 디시 투에 줌바이나 디시 투바데라 생기 껴되게디 최의 인수 생기 인수 다 신두고다 다바 두고요다 나 둘로게 잡아 다바 나신지 칠로도 줘야 마마제 칠로도 줘다 둘로 잡아 있는 칠로 주고 추도 담아서는 또 저거도 칠 주고 봐 근데 다나 생기 껴데 다 있는 생기 연대 껴데 생기 껴데 지중도 치네 다 생기 최의 인수 다 두고요다 두서상 당고야래 제가 장축세데 경거리디게 탐자 수수 생기게 된거 장네 수수 생기데 답심거 찾아 견데가 장주도 곧 답심거 찾아 네가 용서 줘봐 찾아 조비 상계스로 조과 세데게
Therefore, that is to be removed, to be eliminated, to be purified, are the faults of the mind. If we divide them, well, normally once we speak about two kinds. So these are the two groups that include all faults of the mind, which are the two veils, the veils of afflictions, so of the kleshas in Sanskrit, and the veils that are called cognitive veils. And there is this thing that we often hear in Dharma teachings that's called the nature of the mind, or the suchness of the mind, or the ultimate nature of the mind, or the true mode of abiding of the mind. So there are all these various terms that can be used for the one thing that maybe the word is the nature of the mind, and the one that's most used. So we have to try to get to know this nature of the mind, to realize this. And when we realize the nature of the mind, all of these faults, they are purified into the expanse of the mind itself. Within the expanse of the mind, the faults get purified bit by bit by bit. And what does it mean within the expanse of the mind? It means it's not like when we wash our clothes, there is the stain, and while we wash, we see how the color or whatever it is, the stain is being rinsed out and leaves the cloth. That's not what it's like. The faults of the mind, these veils, they are purified within or into the expanse of the mind. And then the mind's full potential can unfold freely, is unhindered to fully blossom or to come to its full perfection. And that's also why, or completion, that's why often also enlightenment or the Buddha is called the completely perfect enlightened one. So referring to this full potential, this full power of the mind being present once these veils have been removed.
내인도 샘기 견 지마대 탐제 샘기 추기 인수 다로데 다베 인데라 추구스라고요. 추구. 와다 덴데게 다다데 다베 탑데 간데스 다고이베 다다데 간제 미시바이나 전죽들 로 차고 말해. 상계스로 차투고 말해. 제가 한테 디시에 탑시지고요. 그래서 봐.
타가 마체나 아니 상계 로라 샤르기 말해.
상계스로 차투고 말해. 상계스 근데 상계스로 차투고 말해.
로라 코르투기 말해.
로라 코르투고 말해. 로라 차투고 말해.
When all these stains of the mind are purified into the expanse of phenomena, or also called Dharma Dhatu, then there remains the purity of this expanse. Once the stains are removed, there is a purity, right? And this is what is called the Dharmakaya, the Dharma body. And in order, of course, to make that happen, we need to know how to purify these stains, how to remove them. And if this is very important, of course, because if we do not know what the steps to purify them are, then it's also very difficult to grasp enlightenment.
This one?
Naso.
This way. Just on language, shung nala ne kansa ke dame che ke dame dona dame ba namba ni sheye de shiuj ke shim shade ya dona tongba ni se de shiuj ke shim re 동이 내저데 미시나 저 간데스 다 거베 다당의 신기 말해 디 메시나 상계로 차투고 말해 나 최세로 차투고 말해 긴두세로 차투고 말해 전줍세로 차투고 말해 지당한서 든데 돌아 개심 무시오차 되게 열어 제가 좀 되게 최진이 숨바 대탄제 대코나에 또에 탑수 숨바 짱짱이 숨에 내가 들으지가 다 인기래
Geshe di lola shartu gimare se nanta gotsu tu gimare se gore to
고치 말았어. 상계서 상계 소화제마다 고치 말았어.
Within the Dharma scriptures, we always hear the two terms of selflessness of the person and selflessness of phenomena, which are, in other words, for emptiness in a way. And it's also important to understand this. And therefore, to understand emptiness is so crucial, because without understanding the nature of emptiness, we cannot understand the way of how to purify these stains. And therefore, that also means that we are not able to grasp fully the meaning of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, of enlightenment. We can't really unfold the proper understanding of these terms if we don't know about the nature of emptiness. And that's why we always hear the sentence that the Buddha taught everything that he taught for the sake of realizing this, of realizing emptiness. For this reason, bodhicitta and the pure view are so incredibly important, because they are the two aspects that have the capacity to remove all of these faults, these stains, these veils, and the power to bring the internalization of all qualities about. And they have the power to bring about the benefit for ourselves and others. And therefore, this is our aim. And this aspect of bodhicitta has two aspects, which are the aspiring aspect and the applicational aspect, or the practical aspect. And now at this point, we are discussing the support in terms of the proper vessel for the Bodhisattva vows. And it was said that the supreme vessel, the supreme recipient for these vows of a Bodhisattva is a fully ordained monk or nun. We have seen that all of the 7 Pratimoksha practitioners, so practitioners of the self-liberation vows, among them, the supreme one is the one of a fully ordained monk or nun.
Why that didn't get that Janju in the Tombati in a can? Kala can't let long be used there. Tombasu do not long for the message. This in the Tande show to you redo the Nandua. Tombe choka lachadams. Tiny Ganshi. Tomla dance, Tomba ball, Sir Ninja dance. Then Lama Sambu share Charles, what did this one?
Did any Remindo?
Redo 66.
Are retro? And then next is the question, by whom should one receive the Bodhisattva vows? And the answer is described in verse 22, according to the ritual described in the chapter on discipline in the Bodhisattva stages. Take the vow from a good and well qualified spiritual teacher.
This one? This one.
Chick the chain do adding one day.
So to reading get share time.
I think chicken.
They're not on about the shares, they want to share also.
I just wondered, did we already discuss verse 22? Did I mix? It looks a little bit different, the Tibetan from the English.
This one, James.
Sorry. Actually, it's verse 23. So Geshe-la read verse 23. Understand that a good spiritual teacher is one skilled in the vow ceremony, who lives by the vow and has the confidence and compassion to bestow it.
Then the way it's in them, and the words in the Shisha Lava, you know, they change in the Sadagi, she the one. You young Sangan Lambanan Cheva, they want to chess or Satisha watch one of that Tombalambe use Tombalambe you the Lama the Kandich Kure, Tombalang Seg and Anazu Dene, Chanju Simba Tombalang Seg, you Lama the Kandich Kure, Vesco, the Lama. You know, she don't damage Kure, you know, she. Then they are Chinazo, she to know Yaway. Did then Lama Sambu singing to Shepherd Chagua Day. Lama the Gandigan, Tombe Choga Yanda Lembada. Koran Jin Tombe, Chanjusin the Tomba Lamba. Dini Tomba the Maya was sooner chicken. Yama Chichi the Ten Tala. Kebe Kansachi, Yende Chashi Chik the Dala Kebe Dini, Shurpuzu Soban and Damba. What? Karsha and Yende Ale Tilla Shear. How to Tomba Boga Lama de la Lama de Dini, Yende Punso about she done the much gores. That she done the Tangudi, she done the Tangudi Shigada. Tambu Corona like Shigada. Tambu Corona like Kains and Lama de Koran get Tomba Lambach gores. So you said the Tomba Lambach gore, Chija. Never the Koran Tomba Mania was so much gores. Sumba de Koram Doma de Nyambara Chuma in a dinner Chirchibaji. Chichi Javasan Ladon. Nyamba de Yas Sor Shabach Google Tatandarwa.
Oui.
This Shiba de Terra, then Kebe Shira than English Gure, study you then cho chicken to Guada, and the Shirin Damasilla, crash Shidua, she would chick shower.
No.
Change it. This one,
Allez, dit chick chason.
chick shows.
Also she number she di chick nang la du.
Chicken on dinner.
Also, hakoson.
Hmm.
That's all. So this
Lama
describes
Lama Sambe and then Damba share.
really
The end shit that much good, say she and what she did that.
the qualities of the Lama that is the best giver of the Bodhisattva vows are described here, and they are said to be 4 qualities of such a teacher. And the first of these qualities entails 4 aspects. That is, that the Lama himself or herself has taken up the Bodhisattva vows, that they make sure that they do not harm the vow or cause them to degenerate, that they do renew them if they get harmed, and that they are skilled in the Dharma. That's all.
This one.
That's all.
Anybody can say, then the Lama de Lama Koran Kandajona, changes in the children Pusun Soba than that much good is.
That's all.
Nibadi. Changes in the children Pusun Soba than that much good is.
Ale nibat tagarang chase. And the second quality is that the Lama should be very skilled and how to say so that the Lama is endowed with the perfect Bodhisattva discipline and ethics.
In the Suba the kind of Lama de Korata Michel, Tomba Bogu in the Tomba Teco in the Tomba Bok, Bodan Shemba, Shemba Sanda Marcella, Tella Desert of Kazan in Tella Sert again, Sobak Yodangan, Nubadan Dendigan, in the Tomba Teg, Pobadan Dengan, what the niche good is.
And the third quality is that Lama should know how to go through the ritual to bestow the Bodhisattva vows. So he or she has to be skilled in the process of the ritual, and then also needs the capacity, the confidence, and also the patience to carry the ritual out as long as it takes.
Okay. That's Shiba. What that? Chamsidan did the Samba Pusu Saba. When I check it, Tomba Bosse Yuki Kansa, the Tamana check it, Chams Pusu than that much good is.
And the fourth quality is that the Lama should be endowed with the perfect love and compassion.
Other the religion in the sounds Lama Sambo, start Tomba Bovek, the Lama Sambo. Lameta Casua, then changes in the Tomba Lansigi, you Lama de la, then Tomba Boyeg, the Necasa, and the Pusu of she is at Sanreta. What Pusu Shindenji Toneta, Tomba Langore, Star, and to drop the Putu Chuma in the Ingirba. Yashish done the Ingir.
So this is the perfect teacher to bestow the Bodhisattva vows. So someone who has these and embodies these 4 qualities. That's really the best we can get.
lamrim said lamrim said also that ale tambo suzu ge shung da je cha shan shung putang na to lo jo mang che lo jo mang che je de ne ta yong zu china da chegne zo kan ne ganji te na da ya ku shen ru de bi shen ni lamrim go le ya zhou gu ya da lamrim go de jiang gu ya din de ne nyam ni che gu ya le lamrim se cha che ge ka su wa da che ge nyam ni che ta na de de nyam ni che de 다 롭좀 제 차로 깨져래. 롭좀 제 차내 냠니 집에 깨져래. 제가 라마 삼보들 연된들 차나 맞아 따져져 봐라. 알레 소수 가나 가자 하고 그러마다 하마고 라마 삼보들 라마들 연된들 차나 맞아 소수 간이 따져져 버래. 수술들의 시럽 윤나나. 민도가 탑심도가.
Tirangi di kapsu tangbo shung podinga la shung chembonga la jang ani di jela lamrim la jang sung soyon di lamrim kon pecha de la sung yobe
pecha de la tarachina pecha de tambone nyamne chechwa.
Di shung podinga ki jela de la.
다치도 롭좀 제 림바데 제나 제라다.
Ale hakosu.
롭좀 제 림바 아신 슝부드가 장한테나 이 신이 람리도 같이 다 내지 그 소소 냠서 라이 림바 차상 하고 있는 거야.
Lasso. Of course, it is not really that easy for us without the proper knowledge and depth of study to ascertain whether a certain lama has these qualities or not. Therefore, it's normally the process is really that one studies first. Also, especially before one starts to really dive into practicing. So there's the mention of the 5 great treatises that are first studied. And once the knowledge is to some extent established and achieved, then one proceeds with proceeds with the lamrim teachings. So the aspect of practice, step by step, and that's when really the practice makes sense because there is a foundation of knowledge, and that's really the right moment when practicing is essential, and that's when one should start. And yeah, and only if we have a certain amount of knowledge already, it's possible to ascertain whether a lama has the qualities that were mentioned. Otherwise, it's very hard.
That's right. That lama yunde digin nalo ne. That nire sungdo shibi nane jang ngamani zoche wa shangrang geshe laso wa ni sheba tab le dis. Kain suna kadang bai kiwi shin shimu shangrang se jidang geshe laso wa se ni yo ma. Konyi gi dene da yunde shi digin nalo ne dene dangbo ni de keche dos. Yunde dangbo ni de keche wa do sungre.
Sugi sumbare shara watang
geshe da shangrongba se la ure shangrongba
lasso
geshe shangrongba de geshe laso wa se
lasso
ona ma ni sungda je na ta ti de yonde shi na la ne ta yonde ta mo ni de keche du sun zong ye de lo.
lasso. In the commentary, there's the mention of 2 geshes. One is called Lama Shangrongpa and one is called Geshe Lasowa. And according to the 2 of them, among these 4 qualities, the most important are the first 2.
자산 geshe 정보 shiwa la yang kan de sung do sana ta bar giwe shin ni 태신 되나 쳐봐라. 전주 심배 두수쇼 숨버래. 자반 교신이 돼 간다고 와도스나 택바 침배게 되나 쳐봐지고 도스. 택바 침보사 되게 단다. 쳐봐지다. 전주 심배 두수쇼 쓰는 전주 출림 표수 소바는 되는 게지. 이 계신 거래 송래.
according to Shantideva, the qualities that are the most important ones for a Lama are that he or she is skilled in the Mahayana Dharma and that they observe the supreme discipline of a bodhisattva.
아야 됐지. 다 되네 딘 주도 다 가르송도 왔으나 다 라마라 때문에 초가 세지다 라마 매베 인지미지야 라마 요고야만 다 땡기 정도야 소소랑 초고야. 아데 가인스나 소다가 지든다지나 땡기 정도랑 초고 말해. 다 전수에 쓰는데 땡기 정도랑 초고야. 어디 제지 생겨야.
Tenelaya andi sodar kirik du nanglone kare chasu.
소다가 지든. 괜히 기술 개몽 그 동바도 임바이나 땡기 존나랑 초고 말해. 인지미지 그 교신 존나랑 그래.
Ale genyen getsu
개몽도 그래.
gelong gitu ale. Ne?
어도 뒤에 ям시 나신자다. 와. 근데는 랑고를 맞다. 지 개몽 추저다 내가 직선을 랑고를 개몽. 나 현다는 랑 초고 말했어. 상기가 군다다 근데 잠라 치자 근데 tomba랑 초고 말했어. 근데 초고야 말다. 차는 요 말다. 다 전주도 추름 라인 바이나 되니 도와 수가 매바이나 소소 땡기 줘도 소소 강배 나라라 되는 군다부 탕가로 가리나 대 정도 소소만 랑 초고야다.
Ale tadorna gelong chigyuna lama chik. Gelong lama chigyuna din lengore di mena mato kundane langchugi mare debe.
말해.
Ani?
라마 유배 왕도 쟤는 라야지다 라마 매배 왕도 쟤는 라야지 니고야래. 전주승도 추름돼.
Ri
라마 유나 야고래 봐스. 매바 이는 양스.
ya
땡기 존에 라 초고래. 소소 ಕಂಬ나 탕가 군다 되는다 되네 라 초고래스.
ri
전주도 동바데.
ale las.
이제 걔랑 괜히 줘야게 도바지다 기주 줘야 도바다 다 걔랑 줘야 소한테 힘바이나 초기 말했을 때.
Ale ta hagoso. Yeah. And then another topic is addressed, which is that it's also okay to take the vows of the bodhisattva conduct, the bodhisattva discipline, and so on, from a support that is not a person. That is okay if there is nobody available to give the vows. Then we can take the vows with the support that could be a statue or a tanka and so on. But that is never okay for the case of the pratimoksha vows, so the self-liberation vows. So if anybody wants to take the pratimoksha vows, that could be either the ones for a lay practitioner or for a novice or for a fully ordained state, then these always have to be taken from a sangha member, from a fully ordained person.
This one?
That's all?
Atisha. Tadramida. This Omega City. Chanju Simbe Sataki. Children Liu Sung Choi. Yanda Tsingin Dembaye. Lama Sangle Tombalang.
Now we come to verse 24. However, in case you try but cannot find such a spiritual teacher, I shall explain another correct procedure for taking the vow.
Tadela Kainsna, Tadele Sumbare. Randelesa. Talobi Tomida. Children Sholai look shet. Jet some chatne. Wado. Tani look Tenige, just a town at now. Tenige just a town at Chansa. Papa Tommy in the Chansa. Tene. Kizim Sholai din. junju da lobdi tende ge jesu tane ro ta tombalang dang ko de sungu ya ro lu de ni ge tawa na lu de ni ge jesu tane lu ka de ni ka ba kare jesu tane digo ta tanda ro ne lama le langwe choka ne sta lama le ge ta lama la tene lama yebe won de chene lama yebe won de chene den choka la tene den tomba le chi da dene nya lama me ba yin la ya ji ro ba so ta ta na lama yebe won de che ba yin na so da lama le langwe choka ne su jung ge ma chanju se de su jung ge liu la ten je kwa la ma dra ma kan de ko ya de chanju se de su jung ge liu la ten ma ku ge ni kwa ba res ro
Children ki leo kare chunjung na la rebe.
와 되디나래 가인스라 파바 토메게 창사 전주스면서
Aso.
되나요
The commentary now says that we could either, for the procedure, we could either follow the procedure as it was explained by Asanga or by Shantideva. So then going into the way of Asanga, it is explained according to the explanations in the scripture by Asanga called Bodhisattva Bhumi. And the procedure is taken from the chapter on the Bodhisattva discipline.
라마 메베 다 라마 예베 초가 되죠 라마 메베 초가네 다 라바 군레 되래 땡지 거 봐고 라바 군들 나라냐 라마 메베 초가 더네 동발랑나 스모 대고게 그게 년송 말해
Lama Mepe.
라마 메발라냐 동발랑 샤르와
He Champapo di Shiva Larvela.
어데네 라바 군데
And the procedure, so that's regarding the procedure of taking the vow from a lama, and regarding the procedure of taking the vow without the lama, then the procedure is explained in the Shiksha Samuchaya, which is by Shantideva. I think I got that right.
도나다 게스신부 조 Atisha de la Deni, Shinda Chimbu Sungi Tamba, Gumuludu, Papa Tommy, Jessimu Shola, the Negi Tanga de Deni, Tambala Dene Deni, Casa Judum, changes about Tombalanda, the Sunguyata.
Le Ludrup Tang Papa Tome Tang Shiva Latang Chikcheso.
Sum Dara.
In short, Atisha himself bases his explanations on the procedure of taking the Bodhisattva vows, as it's explained by Nagarjuna, Asanga, and Shantideva.
Yenekap de la Karshagre Senadan, Tomeda Shola Nigula Tena Shaginis, Chinasu Tabdus Yorde Yene, Tatanila Tena Single Yinsum.
However, here at this point in the commentary, the procedures as explained by Asanga and by Shantideva are drawn upon.
Tanda Kainsan Kesishimbo Shiwata Papa Tommy Nigi, Shinda Chambo Nita, Shinda Chambo Nivu De, Dene Kaswata, Tombalange, Dene, Hinama, Chiksun Yundukalata, Choga Cabar. That is a young digger, choga de la dead, the caba young digger. In a Della Cabar main, but that Della the Caba young Sigimar, young Shingamar, but Della Caba young has in a choget on the middle of that young digger, choga chadam.
The procedure itself, based on these two masters, is a little bit different, but the meaning and effect, that's not changed.
That look, that power Tommy down, gets him show how Nige look, that look, Umabe lose Jabatan. The name about that Umabe Lu, that Senzam Gulu, the Tanya China, the name Tombala without Namshati Yerba.
Ale chik uma par chik Senzam Belugla rebe. And according to the philosophical tradition that the ritual follows, the one pertains to the Madhyamaka school and the one to the perspective or tradition of Chittamatra.
나도 돈다 계셔마 가라하고 고야라서라데 돈발라에게 초가도 민다고 중세 요한테 돈발라에 무시 미겔레인데 자동당 야라고 동화세도 차상 찌부지냐 차대기요래. 좋아?
So the thing that we have to remember is that although there might be a little difference in the procedure of the ritual of conferring the Bodhisattva vows, the meaning and the vows, how they are to be observed, what the downfalls are, the root downfalls and the secondary downfalls and so on, that's definitely never going to be different from each other.
다도차. 다 대답이다 전주선배 동바대 생. 다 대답이 전주선배 동바대로 다 전주선배 다 런주도 다 전주선배 동바대랑 계시더라 봤다. 라이다 가래스나 전주선배 동바대레스. 다 술랑고레 세죠. 술랑고레 세르나 라마 예보공도 저바이나 라마 친이 다 친이 비수소바 단 덴바대. 어떤 단지 나마들 시행바. 친이 신대지 시행바. what the next Talama Sampo the next year about that, the next right how she was.
So when it is about taking the Bodhisattva vows, which is what we're talking about at the moment, then one should first of all try to find a spiritual teacher with the proper qualities in these four as they were explained in the best case, and take the vows from him or her.
Tabana choka kadejel tene langimbe senada papa tomegin zebe para chashana papa tomegin zebe da chanjusimbe sain nanzenge da chudung liu sejara tende chudung liu na la dan tombala ge choka de sun ya le oda tende dan choka de la tene la yes wa.
And the vows then are to be taken based on the procedure as it is explained in Asanga's Bodhisattva Bhumi in the chapter on discipline.
Ta tomba la yundu so ta tomba mushi tomba la yundu ta kandere sloga ta dele dene chowa mushi che sen ta sungi tone arazi kemre tomba ran shi lamba yime ta re ta tomba kan lambe ka so ta chowa mushi ju se yon de ge.
And as with any vows, as also with the refuge vows, the procedure has three parts. One is the preparation, then the main part, and then the conclusion.
The
first step is to supplicate the teacher to bestow the vows.
Then tso sabarche. Then gumata bache. Then samba cabarche ke tapshiche. Then barche yemer tiwate bache. Tombalange tini barche yemer roa. No laban durdu choas. Ta laban durdu chebas. Tan dige de gansa joy choka chadigo, joy choka.
Lasso.
Joy choka house.
And so that's one part of the first part of preparation, and there are other parts to the part of preparation which are then generating the wish, then accumulating merit and wisdom, then the exhortation, then the special mindset, then the part where the practitioner is being asked about obstacles, whether there are any obstacles present or not, which is always an integral part when one takes a vow. Then there is a bit of advice, and a bit of advice, yes. So this is the preparatory part.
무시라도 차샤나 답에 그러나 데레 상판요 인게다 아 라신 돈 러브치 전주 쓰는 게 와다 전주 초고 쓰는 게게네 심지 통지 다가 저노에 전주 주조 용어 제방에 로아벤 상게 좀 보셨어 어디네도 상단은 지겨 남주 용다 있잖아요 상게 전주 선바고
Adi sig de zudinang la yusarwa.
다 와네 지딩 등기를 니나 알레 고들라 등기면도 왔던
Aninge kantana kandes kyurgur.
아 도스나 그나 너무 도스한테도 아 상해져서 다운도 말았어 상기쇼도 소리로 전주 받아요 당부 점루지 타바침복이 점루 난다 제상다 상해져서 가서 상계쇼도 소리 전주 받아야지 란셰든 말상에 상계쇼도 소리가 전주 받아 다주지 란셰든 라로 전주 쓰는 게 버게 오다 란다 신게 때 두개 된다라 전주 쓰는 게 버지겠니
Raso.
와 되는 너무 상계쇼도 소리로 전주 받아 다주지 만나 전주도 다주지 아도나 된 데리시는 저 겸로체 샤파체 되네 제수 일어나자 와 되네 이제 초사와 너무 다해로 어 되네 셈디가라 간세 셈다된 전주 셈 기회라 파셰네고 소고야다 전주 셈도 동바라에게 파셰네고 파셰네고 됐어요 당시 제고야 근데 다 탑도는 라신이게 그 주에게 쳐도 전주 쳐도 셈 깨네 전주 쓰는 라발라 러기니 셈 다도 가르잖아 라고야 다 이내 원의 시그레 셔야지 뭐이나
Raso.
네
Tanda shakwe yenla tan yirang yenla ngushi chasong
무시가
ale. And then once that has been completed, one proceeds to the actual part of the ritual. And that entails also various parts. The first part is taking Mahayana refuge, then confessing and purifying negativities, then the part of rejoicing in virtue, and then the part where we remove obstacles that stand or could stand in the way. And then there's a part of repetition of where the bodhisattva vow or bodhicitta itself is generated, where we repeat a certain set of phrases that says, in short, for the sake of my own benefit and the benefit of all, I generate bodhicitta. And I will train henceforth in the training of bodhisattva. But this part, again, in detail, will be pointed out or mentioned later on.
야야 되죠 다들은 죽이 초과다라 캠바스와 서직제 이 시기 스바주의 편연시야 다 전주성 편연 되죠 내 도만에 봐 자존도 미라봐 서는 죽이 초과다라 다 자존도 미라와서 나라 얘기 저 드는 쇼가다 봐 전주성 도만라인 생소 밀리파치 라게서 여러봐 어디게 걔나 도만라인은 걔나 냠중 전에 된배 소소냠네 저거레스 거 되래 라본 둘째 제바스 되는 죽이 따라 맨데다 잡아 표하더라 된 죽이 초가스라고요 죽이 초가더라 챔바스 이식 스바주의 편이야 동반년에 가정을 다 맞아봐 라본 둘째 제바 따라가 쳐봐다가 어디게 돼 죽이 초가더라 샤로
그래.
무시 초가더라 뒤샤송 무시 말에 먼저 주에 초가시야 들리시 뒤흔잡시지 자기도 죽이 초가들라 나도 시기도 그러
And then comes the conclusion of the ritual, where we start with some supplications, some prayers, and then there is, again, there will be explained a little bit the benefit of bodhicitta, and then there is a bit of advice about how important it is that we stay, that we remain humble, that we do not go and boast around about the bodhisattva vows that we just obtained and how now we have become bodhisattvas and so on and so forth. So there are other bits of advice like that, and others And then at the very end, there is the part where we express our gratitude with a mandala offering and other things. So the preparatory part had 7 parts, and the conclusion contains 5 parts.
Lama maybe sugar on the Tamba Yanasun, Lama Yeba on the Janak Denderes, Lama maybe on the Chanasun was did it. Dalam Beben did away. That you know they wanted some shock on the other one is soon good about. Other than what they are the Dasi much. Dalam Beben did away, get the Lama Manyanasa. So the Tambaja and Lama the Manyana, Dele Shendom nearby. Choga yanda shepherd Charles, what did it? Shanta, Lama maybe chocolate then Tombalanda Tima shaking in Sungar.
And then in verse 24, however, in case you try but cannot find such a spiritual teacher, I shall explain another correct procedure for taking the vow. So here we are just having a short summary in these past 2 verses. One, what to do when we find a teacher, and then this verse concerning what to do when we do not find such a teacher.
That the in the condition, Takarchak those. Tangan Kata in Tombalan Becapsu, Tombalan Segi Chigilama. Tachiki Lama, Tin Samaji, Raya Gitin, Tapshidi, Shivchagudua, Tapshid Shivchagu Yare. Zawan Maraba, you know, that Lama never didn't take it to the lunch sugar, yes, the Kajare. Nan Lama Jatuajana Rat Lama Chikimune Chikitombala, the Caswater, Lama Sampocher, Ragi, Shinduliana, Digizamaja, Soju Jadinian, Digama, Tatanda Kayasna. Lama Yena Yavara Yang, Chazan de Kandesumudo Salade. Think that the Lama Tendawala, Tombalang or Sumba, Tar, Devashimbu, Zayang, Bezu, Chimbu Jana, Lama Benjarai, Bezu Chimbu Jana. That Yudugi Wangis, Yugi Wanda, Yunab Shasang Arastan, the Walumba Indo, Kawre. Dugi Wanda Jana, that do up the top to Tamara to Jadayore. The Reju one get that Maraba Yenas, do you want get dinner we get the Lama? Then Maniba Yena, Chidrajas, and that kind of chocolates.
So just again to mention, it is very important that we try to find a spiritual teacher who can give the vows. So that's really essential that one definitely first tries to find such a person, such a qualified teacher. And if it's really not possible to find someone like that, then it is okay to take the vows also with a support. But it's definitely better to take them from a person, from a qualified teacher. But it could, of course, not always be possible. For example, there could be the obstacle of place. Maybe there is a teacher, but the teacher is not in the same place that we are. Or it could be a problem of time, in the sense of like we are in the degenerative times. So these times are even more difficult for us to find teachers. So if that happens, then how to do? That's what's the next step in the commentary.
Lama Yoba de Leshe, Misse Rangi, Ranigi Lama Tsujedes, Lama Mebachenes, Mayende, Lama maybe Toma never Choga, that Lama maybe Toma Mevita, Lama Meba, then Toma Lamita, Choga the Candeses, Gorda, Choga Sumba, Dian. Yada was Shabracha in them in Bichirwana, Lama maybe Choga Lungle, Shechana, Lama maybe then Choga did Atisha Korang did so my years. That I is the near Lula than my shaking years. What in the Sum Yarba? Lula Shechana, De la ngonze dan Jamphel bes. Our ranzar Cubaye, Chidra Chanchu tu geba, Jambegin the Sange Shin, Gengin Dola Shebatam, Tishin din a rap set D, what did it? It is
If we do not find a qualified teacher, then we should do as follows, Atisha says. And that's then when we look at verse 25, and Atisha here clearly states that this is not something he himself made up, but he will draw upon a particular passage of a certain text, and let's see what that is. I shall write here very clearly, as explained in the ornament of Manjushri's Buddha Land Sutra. How long ago, when Manjushri was Ambaraja, he aroused the intention to become enlightened. Okay, I think, yeah, in Tibetan we have 6 lines, but here we have 4. Okay, yes, that's verse 25. Okay. That's all.
Sange dog and Malonda, that Lujudin the Yara, that Lujudin and Alsungu Yara. De la Kayan Sana Chitado, Chitado Shepherd Tamjaw, tell a lama maybe choka shepherd chadis, may give a paddle, maybe to do that, but the Rinpoche Give a paddle never sat Sange Jundan Deraji, maybe to Zin a Gesh Sunguata. That the naked to Zilla, Jabedu Jurbani, such and Jusamba Jabedu Jurbani. College Gabo. Then Amparanza, the Gabunanga, Shijawa Jurwayes, Narchuzin Jambeyan. Then college Gabuchigita, Gawa Shebe decision is there. College Gabuch Gawasheba, college Gavan Kunzahagumare. The Gabuch Gawasheba, then they Tizugana, Dijinsheba, Dudayang Gaboshijawa Jundu. Chidalana maybe Chanjusho to give a Jambegi Sangi Shingi Gan Gonam Sutuna Shingi Ganam Casa Ganam Go about them the dollar Shabatar, the Konashindo. Tai Digina Lola Tene, Lama maybe Chocolate Tene, Tombalayagi, the Lugumango Shusun is survive. What didn't she Chanatine, Tanda Dina La Mate, the Din Sung is
That's all. Verse 25 therefore refers to a situation in which Manjushri, in a previous life, many lifetimes prior to Buddha's birth, was a king called Ambaraja. And apparently, now without going in the details of the story, which seems to be quite long and is elucidated to some extent in the commentary, there was this situation that Manjushri, as King Ambaraja, was in lack of a spiritual teacher to take up the vows. And therefore, the procedure for taking the Bodhisattva vows without a direct support goes back to the example of Manjushri. And this example was given in one Sutra of the Buddha, in which he retold the story.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Here is Manjushri here the close bodhisattva to the Buddha? Is that what we're talking about here?
What do you mean? Is he here the close bodhisattva?
When Manjushri was Ambaraja, which Manjushri are we talking about here? Because I thought Manjushri was a bodhisattva, or when you visualize, the wisdom aspect of Buddhas.
Okay, I understand. Pikapki Jamphel yang sena di koranki loma chigribe loma sange tuna Jamphel yang sedu loma chigre yana tengsa ngatu idam chigmigi yorwa dirves.
Dan Jamphel setting that the literature Jamphel yang da Genesis da Trema senda that the Jingote Kasa Chigi Shigi Omares. shaja to was na kansa chigre chizu changwe sana kansa chigge jares ta dana ngzo ngarazo ra shasana jame yang yo wando jina sangye yore keme wando jina roya yore generation wando jina sangye yore ta dinish yonde yores
yine di kapki ruadilla chisheg dua
jasan di kansa chig jambel se jana chizu kasurata jayang tsenjen chig ro
ale tenjen chi ko yidam rang di mare. So yes, often, when we talk about the yidams, then we are talking about certain enlightened aspects that are not necessarily referring to one particular individual. Like when we say Buddha Shakyamuni, then that's a particular person. When we say Tara, Cherezi, Manjushri, then this is not really related to one person in particular. And here, the name Manjushri is not just Yida Manjushri, but there was an individual living, probably disciple of the Buddha, living at the times of the Buddha, who had the same name. When we then want to take the Bodhisattva vows, then very essential it is that in the very first step, we accumulate merit with the seven branches. The taking the Bodhisattva vows has to take place on the foundation of accumulating merit and purifying the obscurations. And then also, whether we have a spiritual teacher in front or not, we definitely need to tend to the supplications. That is the part where we normally repeat something like, I supplicate to you, Buddha, or Bodhisattvas, and so on. I pray to you, I beseech you. Rangi Ming. Rangi Ming. La. And then the part follows where we say I, mine, and then your name. The part where we repeat our own name.
So the ma city lab. Tishineta chongmushi malaya.
So we could start, that would be totally fine to start. I pray to you, Guru, victorious ones, and your heirs. I, with the name of Nana, from this moment on until Buddhahood, and then goes the main part of the repetition. However, today we cannot conclude to talk about all the details of this procedure because the time is not enough. No. what's definitely essential at the top is to rely on the 7 branch prayer to accumulate merit and purify obscurations.
나도 자. 다 연락 넘어도 캐나다 차차와다 청자와다 체제 쳐바쳐바다. 네 청자와다 체제 샤바쳐바다. 진짜서 연하쳐바다. 그릇이 쏘아다바다. 내가 청자와다 체제 샤바다 제수이나 그릇이 쏘아다. 내가래 청자와다 체제 샤바다 제수이나 그릇이 저주스.
Then Muachipo.
뭐하쳐봤어. what is like
You all are familiar with the 7 branches. That's the prostration branch, then offerings, confessing, then rejoicing, then exhorting, supplicating, and dedicating.
맞아. 나도 저 알레든 다 드린데 샤쇼. 나에서 되지면도 안 하더라.
Maybe let's conclude the teachings here for today because the time's over.